just general issues in life. Anyway, it's the Post-Fight Podcast. It's Nick Akin. I'm here with Tom Taylor. I'm with JHK. The three boys are back in town. John's in South Korea after his Bangtao stint. Tom is still in Ottawa, Canada. I'm in Hong Kong. And we are here to discuss some big news, guys. I was worried. I didn't know what we would talk about actually today because I had no clue. There was nothing going on. And then I woke up and suddenly everything changed. Eddie Alvarez is now left one championship, so we have a lot to talk about. But first of all, I'm just gonna see how my boys are doing. John, what's up?
You know what it is. Life moves on, man. Eddie Alvarez leaves one championship. I leave the house and live my life. That's what it is. You know what I mean? That's like everybody else. But yeah, it is big news, though. I ain't gonna lie, it is big news.
Yeah, big news. Tom, what's going on in the life of Ottawa's finest?
Oh, man, about the same, just covering one championship, wondering what the hell happened with Eddie Alvarez. Not much new to report over here.
I know, I was so surprised. I was just chatting to Tom, to JHK before you jumped in here, and I said, were you surprised? He said no. I hate to put you on the spot, John, but why were you not surprised? Sorry, at the mic.
Because he's been quiet. He's been inactive. The last time he fought was in April of 2021. And right now we're sitting in September, I believe, of 2022. How many months is that between fights? And it's not like he had like any major injuries. We never heard of anything. I heard he was training the whole time. There's been dudes in Philadelphia around the area that have been training with him. And they just kind of like put him on ice, right? And I don't know if it was amicable. What word did you use?
Amicable.
Amicable, right? I'm not educated like everybody else, but amicable. I don't know if it was amicable, to be honest with you, right? I think they had a little back and forth tussle to get Eddie Alvarez out that contract. Because think about how much money he was making. Let's speculate on that. How much money do you think he was making per fight?
I think he was getting paid in between fights too. That was, I think, part of the nature of his deal, right? Like he was getting paid whether he fought or not.
Exactly, a monthly stipend, right? Like a lot of these guys are getting that. The big stars are like they could get like 5,000, 10,000 a month. We've heard those numbers being thrown around, right? And that adds up, man. 12 months, $10,000 a month. That's $120,000. That's a lot of money just to give away to somebody to hang out on the roster, right? And you're expected him to come in and make waves, kind of like be the face of the U.S. when you're breaking into that market. Now they don't have that. They have Demetrius, but they wanted Eddie to be involved in that, I believe. You know what I mean? And that's not happening anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you, man. Like, I can't say that I wasn't surprised when Nick told me the situation. But then,
yeah, I texted him like, "Oh shit, things are going down." Big news. He's like, "What's happening?" I'm like, "Oh, Eddie's gone." Fuck.
I thought it was just gonna be a fight announcement or something, but yeah, it was definitely big news. But like in hindsight, it's not all that surprising, I guess, because I mean we keep going back to that press conference in LA, right, where he said, he still wanted to win the title and become a 3 promotion champion and all that. But I was looking back at that, and the wording he used was something like, "We're gonna figure this out" or something, which sort of in hindsight implies that there was something stopping him from getting back in the cage. There was clearly some kind of disputes, some kind of, some area where they weren't agreeing. It wasn't just as simple as like figuring out his next opponent, I don't think. And when you look back now, that seems a little bit more obvious. So I guess maybe in hindsight, it's not so surprising. But yeah, I mean, when you told me last night, Nick, that's definitely not what I was expecting.
I don't know for a fact, but I'm just going to give my opinion and my theory. I think Eddie he has always said, I want the belt or I want, the big fights. And I think from what was out there, they had offered him Saigid is a Gakmayev, I hope I pronounced that right, who is Khabib Nurmagomedov's protege and is fighting Zhang Lipeng next weekend. And I think Eddie said no. And the problem is, one introduced these rankings, of which you and I, Tom, are members in this top 5 rankings, right? And once you have rankings, for better or worse, you can't kind of BS your way into putting someone in a title shot situation. They have to win a fight, right? And for me, Eddie has always been one fight away from having a title shot. It doesn't matter still, because the way Christian Lee has dominated this division, you could have Eddie beat anyone and he probably gets a title shot. But they kind of back themselves to the corner now because Saigid is number 5, I think. So Eddie's got to fight this guy because he's lost to Timothy. You know, he's had the no contest with Yuri, who's now a welterweight. And then who else is in there? You've got Daggy, who, he lost to Oak. I mean, I would rather see Eddie fight Yuri or Daggy or rematch Oak. Plenty of big fights. But if Eddie said belt or nothing, then I don't disagree with parting ways. And I'm not saying one was in the right or one was in the wrong, or Eddie's in the right or the wrong. But Eddie, he's 38. He just wants title fights and things like that. And he's probably going to go and get it wherever he goes, which is probably going to be our next topic of conversation. But I'm just giving my 2 cents on the situation. But on that topic, I'll throw it to John. Where do you think Eddie Alvarez may land now? I mean, what are his options?
He has options because he's one of the, I think he's one of the only guys to have like titles in Bellator and in the UFC, and he was, you know, that was his goal to come over to one championship and get another title, but that never happened because, you know, the sport, you know what I mean, it moves so fast, right? And you got Christian Lee. Christian Lee is one of the best lightweights in the world / welterweights, right? So even if he fought Christian Lee, I think Christian Lee would have completely dominated him. Like, Christian Lee's overall game is insane. And Oak beating Christian Lee, that was just a shock to me too. You know what I mean? Even though I support Oak winning that fight, but that was a shock. And then Christian Lee comes back and shows you why he's the champion. But, you know, of course, everybody wants to see the fight because he's a big name, Alvarez. And now what's his options? He says he's want to go to boxing. I could see him going and boxing somebody. You never know. He could box. I'm not going to say Jake Paul. Jake Paul is way too big for Eddie Alvarez. Jake Paul is like, do you see him stand next to Anderson Silva? It kind of shows you like how big he is, right? When he's standing next to Anderson Silva is like 200 plus pounds, right? He could go box, you know, on whatever, you know what I mean? Like Triller or whatever. There's all these promotions that will sign him. Maybe he could go box a YouTuber like a KSI or something. I don't know. Like, that's options. I think bare knuckle boxing could be a choice for him, an option for him. There's a lot of names. And it seems like bare knuckle boxing, BKFC, they have the money to throw around. You know what I mean? And why not put him against a Mike Perry? You know, why not put him against one of the names in their promotion and maybe create some titles there in that weight division? You know, one of those like money weight divisions or whatever. You know, BKFC is just a wild promotion, so they'll just create whatever. You know, you got people flashing their titties and all that, right? So, and I heard that they're gonna, like, you can't do that anymore. They're gonna put fines on people if they do that anymore, because, you know, a dude would probably go too far because they're like, oh, what?
Is this a waste of Eddie's legacy, his final years? I'm going to give Tom this question. You know, he was in an organization where the path was there for him to win another title, be a Triple Crown champion. Now he might go and do some kind of circus fights, let's say. And does it tarnish his legacy, Tom, or do you respect that he just wants to make the most money possible at, you know, in his final, let's say, swan song, twilight years?
I mean, that's a tough one. I think if there was any tarnishing of the legacy, it's already happened, right? Because he's already lost the fights and won. As I was saying to you, Nick, last night, as much as I respect and love Eddie for everything he's accomplished, like, the lasting impression for me will be that he couldn't cut it in one championship. You know, as harsh as that is, he just wasn't winning fights here. And maybe it's because he was getting older. Maybe it's because he was fighting guys that were quite a bit bigger than him. But that's what I'm going to remember, is that Eddie Alvarez came to one championship and really, outside of the fight with Edward Flying, just couldn't win any fights. So at this point, I think for me, I know anything else is a good move now. You know, he clearly it wasn't working in one. So let's see, you know, where else he can go, what else he can do in another promotion. And I personally don't like the idea of him boxing, but he's got options. Like John said, I saw a lot of people kind of talking about the PFL. I don't think that really makes sense for a couple of reasons, which we can unpack, I guess. But yeah, he's got options, whether it's back to Bellator, BKFC. Nate Diaz needs opponents. You know, that'd be a cool fight. I doubt it would really happen without the backing of a big promotion, but there are definitely lots of options out there for Eddie. And I think there's still time for him to kind of turn things around and maybe help us all forget about how things went for him and won.
But the other thing I want to say is a lot of people, and I think in our comments here, Shimazu has raised it that Eddie, he didn't think he was losing these fights. He feels like he was robbed, and especially the DQ with Yuri, and then a lot of people will argue if you were judging by UFC's rule set, he would have maybe beaten Okra Yoon, but it was obviously not UFC's rule set. It was One Championship's rule set where damage is the main factor. So there are all these asterisks, these question marks against Eddie Alvarez's performances and fights in One Championship, and maybe he feels it's tarnishing his reputation by staying there. Is John, what do you think of that?
I agree with Tom. It's already tarnished. Like, look at his record. Look at his record in the division. Like, in the comments, they're telling complete truths about that fight with Edward. Mm-hmm. Edward knocked him down with the leg kick. And basically, Edward, all he had to do was, like, stand him back up and just continue to kick him. But he followed him to the ground, got swept, and got choked out,
one of the worst decisions ever made.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I love Edward, but that was bad.
It was a bad decision because Eddie can jiu-jitsu his ass off, right? Like, Eddie is he's an all-around fighter. Like, people know him for his like wild striking and all that, but he's an all-around fighter. Yeah, I think he's always gonna be a name, no matter what. He could 10 years from now, he's gonna still be a name, but his like decision to where he goes from this point on is gonna really determine like how we remember him, because if he starts going and just losing fight after fight after fight, PFL, I feel like that is a bad choice if he goes over there.
Yeah, I don't like the PFL idea either. I don't think it makes sense for anybody. I mean, it probably makes sense for Eddie. It's a pretty, straightforward route to $1 million, as everyone always says about the PFL. But PFL is, also like One Championship, trying to position themselves as one of the biggest promotions in the world, and the optics of signing somebody who's just gotten totally, thrashed in another promotion is not great. Do you really want to be signing people who are on losing streaks and then, proclaiming yourself the best promotion in the world? It doesn't really compute. And obviously there's a little bit of, hostility between some executives at One Championship of the PFL. We don't have to get into that, but I just think that doesn't make a ton of sense for me. I don't see fighters migrating from One to PFL and vice versa very often for a litany of reasons. But then again, PFL was willing to sign Rory McDonald, who I would say was well past his prime when they picked him up. Anthony Pettis, same could be said for him. Maybe they look at Eddie Alvarez and see a guy that they can capitalize on somehow, whether he becomes a champion or they use him to kind of put other younger fighters over. That's possible. But for me, PFL is
they got Hurricane Shane now, and he's the All-Stars' newest recruit, right, John?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but you gotta look at Shane. You gotta look at Shane Burgos. Yeah, he's in his prime, or he's entering his prime, and he's gonna most likely fight a weight class up, so he doesn't have to cut the weight. That's the one thing. Also, is like PFL, you fight so often that those weight cuts could have a major effect on you. I don't think it'd be hard for Eddie to fight that often, to go through a season and then go through a playoffs at the age he's at, and he hasn't even fought in like over a year and a half, basically. It's a tough call, man. Like, I don't think PFL is a good choice.
Yeah, I don't think PFL is the one. They had that tweet last night. I don't know if you guys saw the GIF. Like, I mean, they are aware, obviously, that Eddie's a free agent, and we're kind of flexing a bit, like we're going to make him an offer or whatever. But I think it was just kind of posturing. I don't think it's a good look for them to sign Eddie. And again, I'm not trying to badmouth Eddie here. You just got to think about it from like a business standpoint. Do you really want to sign a guy who's losing the way he's been losing? And then, the next day call yourself the biggest or second biggest promotion in the world or whatever? Just doesn't compute for me. I think the thing for Eddie at this point has got to be, if we're talking about what's likely, got to be BKFC. As much as I'm not crazy about that idea, I think this is the kind of thing Eddie would do. BKFC clearly has a ton of money. I don't know where it's coming from. Like, I would love to learn about their investors and where this money's coming from, but they've clearly got it, right? They were paying Chad Mendes, like $600,000 a fight or something.
Man.
I mean, even if they just sign Eddie for one, we know they're trying to get Nate Diaz too. Like, if they could get him kind of a marquee opponent like that, I think that would be big business for everyone involved. And we know they have no problem signing people who are on the tail end of their career. So I think that's probably what's going to happen.
Okay, well, I have to just answer our favorite commenter, Alvin. Hello, Mr. Nick. Will you be granting my request about the DM I sent you on Twitter? Yeah, so Alvin wants to be the moderator of the chat, because every now and then we get a few crazy people in the chat saying bad things. So I'm fully up for this, Alvin. How do I implement this? Is this a figurative role or a literal role? Do I have to give you some sort of powers? How do I do it? And Tom, John, are you up for Alvin being the moderator?
I can't think of anybody better to moderate this crazy chat, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come on. Alvin is like, we trust him.
We trust Alvin. Okay, so we'll figure out how Alvin can police the chat here. I guess I will have to give him some login keys or something.
Yeah, or it could just be like, everyone accept that Alvin's word is final in the chat. He's the mediator, and if you rail against him, you're banned for life.
Well, he says he's the moderator with Drake's chat on one of those.
Okay.
So I'll get Alvin. Alvin, tell me. Sorry, I forgot to get back to you about that, but I do want you to be the moderator if you're down for it. I love it. Love the positivity. A lot of comments here. Sorry, I'll try and get through some of them. Alvin's asking John KL. Sorry, I'm getting lost in the chat here. But Eddie Alvarez against Manny Pacquiao. I don't want to see that really. Wow. Yeah. Okay. A lot of chat here. I'm just going to see what's up. Sorry if I missed any of this. There's so much going on, guys. Sorry.
I know this is
John KL fully supports Alvin as mod. Eddie should go to Ryzen, says Bobby Brown.
That's something I hadn't really considered. I like that idea. There's fights for him there. It'd be nice to see him in a ring again. Obviously, his fight with Edward, I think, was in a ring, if I recall. But it would be nice to see Eddie in a ring a few more times before all is said and done. And Ryzen 2 would probably let him do some kind of crazy stuff, some fun stuff. Bring in somebody like Manny Pacquiao for him to box, like we just saw. That kind of crazy business. I think Ryzen would be a good choice for Eddie for sure.
Yeah. Why wouldn't they? Yeah, Ryzen would be perfect, because Ryzen would sign him to like one fight contracts. You know?
And then you could conceivably get a title there. It's not, it wouldn't be outrageous for him to win a title there. And then he can kind of still claim that he got, the 3 major titles, potentially retire in Japan, where he had, some of the best years of his career. I think that, and if I could pick the perfect outcome of all of this, that would be it for me. But I think, again, the most likely is probably BKFC.
Okay, Leonardo has some good points here. I just want to raise. Says, I think the main factor was the fights offered and the matchups. Offering him Sergey is basically, we want to push our Russian prospect. Yeah, I was thinking maybe Eddie thought. I mean, the guy's a monster. Did you see the way he handled Nakashima? It was pretty brutal. Mm-hmm. And Eddie has never really figured out the size difference with one. There's something there, isn't there, where he's half the size of these guys, and everyone is bigger than him. Nastyukin was so much bigger than him. Folayang, Lapicus, Oak. There's something going on. I don't know whether it's just Eddie is not streetwise enough to know the weight cutting procedures with hydration things, but I always thought maybe he should go down to featherweight. So let me throw it to the chat, not the chat. We'll throw it one of you boys who wants to take. Could Eddie Alvarez have possibly gone down to featherweight and won? And then would he have done well there, given the division? You've got Martin Nguyen, like coming back. You've got Tanley, just lost the belt. Tan Kai is pretty fresh, isn't he? 24 years old. Maybe John, we'll throw it to you first.
No, I think he would have ended up just continuing to lose at featherweight, especially he would be drained. You know what I mean? Like, he's pretty drained making lightweight. If you look at him, he's the reason why he looks so much smaller than the other guys is the other guys are so much taller. Mm-hmm. Taller, leaner. He's kind of like a shorter guy, thick. Like, he's really thick, right? He's really wide as well. And I think that's what, was the disadvantage of him being in that division, that lightweight division. A lot of those dudes were just taller. And they were really skilled, right? Like Oak's skilled, Christian Lee, all these guys are very skilled. And he just couldn't handle it, man. Because he was getting, like, pieced up by a lot of the dudes, right? He got, like, dropped a lot of times. It's not like he, it was like a, like a technical decision or something. Like, it wasn't like that. Like, it was some brutal fights and shit. Fights. So with Eddie 145, I don't think it would have happened. I don't think he would have wanted to do that. And Leonardo's right. If they're offering him this Russian assassin, but I think, to be honest with you, maybe the reason why Eddie came in was for them to build stars off of him. And if Eddie won, okay, that's good. If he didn't, we build stars off of him, and that's why they offered him Sagid. Because if you look at his who did he fight? He fought Nasty Yukin, he fought Edward, Lapicus, and Oak, right? Oak, Lapicus, I think that they were like the guys coming up, right? Nasty Yukin already established, but it almost seemed like he was the favorite. And we picked him, right? We picked him to beat Eddie because we knew that Nasty Yukin just had that crazy power, and that's what happened in that fight. Yeah, I don't think that he would have had a lot of success. He might have won a couple fights, but I think this is the best decision for him. If he would have continued, he would have just probably basically lost to no names. That's what would happen.
Or Leonardo again saying here, if he'd gone to Bellator, is he going to lose to Usman Nurmagomedov? He can't escape the young Russian stars, Tom. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the question, right? Like, how much of Eddie's losses in one came down to things like size, and then how much of it came down to just the fact that he's getting older and he's fighting a new generation of fighter with new skills and, who have been training their entire lives. I think that's probably the main factor for the reason he was losing in one. And like John said, Eddie's always been pretty small when he fights, right? Look at his fight with Conor McGregor. He was obviously smaller than him, and Conor was coming up, from featherweight at the time. Yeah, Eddie's just a shorter, compact guy. So I think he was just in one meeting, fighting a lot of guys who were maybe a bit bigger than him, but certainly a lot longer and a lot rangier. And he's going to encounter that problem anywhere at this point. When he was younger, he had the athleticism and the toughness and the skill to kind of work around any physical disadvantages he had. But now that he's almost 40 years old, it's going to be harder and harder to do, particularly if he's fighting these guys from Dagestan who can just, grind anybody into pulp at any given moment. Eddie, it's fun to think about Eddie winning titles elsewhere and stuff, but the big thing now is just that it's his age, right? Like, he's going to have a tough time anywhere he goes unless he's given really favorable matchups. And I don't think Bellator would be too kind with him with the matchmaking.
I don't think Bellator would sign him.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, right? I mean, he's already. How often do you see this happening? Where a guy who's already a veteran when they leave a promotion, like Eddie was extremely experienced already when he left Bellator. Then he has this long journey through the UFC, through one championship, and then they sign him again. That just doesn't really happen. Sometimes a prospect will come to the UFC, lose their first fight or two, and then 5 years later come back when they have more experience. But you don't often see veterans leaving a promotion and then circling back, 5, 6, 7, however many years later it's been. I don't think Bellator makes sense for him either. He has options, but yeah, not all of them make a ton of sense. It's going to be interesting to see where he lands.
I am just trying to add Alvin as a moderator. He's telling me how to do
who
it.
manages Eddie? Is he first round?
I actually don't know.
I'm not sure either.
It may be somebody random, like somebody we don't hear about often. I can't recall.
Yeah, when you dealt with Eddie Alvarez, did you guys deal with a manager or anybody?
I went through one, and it was tough to get him. It was always hard to get interviews with him.
This was another point I wanted to raise. I feel like Eddie was never all in on one championship. He never fully bought in the way Demetrius Johnson was so happy to be a spokesperson, a promoter, an ambassador. And you look at DJ now; he's thriving. He won the Grand Prix. He lost to Adriano first time, but then he had that awesome fight, the fun special rules fight with Rodtang, made a lot of money off that, I'm sure. Then he beat Adriano in a rematch, and he's just loving life. He's making so much more money than UFC. Eddie sort of has always treated one like it's below him. I feel, I don't want to put words in his mouth or anything, but he never seemed to buy into it. It's always been so tough to get interview with him. Like, he just doesn't care enough to promote the brand. And I think that has just kind of bled through to his performances. He's not bought into it. Am I being unfair, guys? I don't know. Someone take this while I try to make
unfair.
Alvin.
Completely unfair. Why are you attacking Eddie Alvarez right now?
Well, because he's never going to see this, and yeah.
He's probably watching right now.
He's probably watching right now just because you said that.
He doesn't give a damn. There's a lot of one fighters who actually watch our content and read our Instagram and things, and I always make sure to not say things about them because I respect them. But I just think Eddie's never really cared about the brand, and he's never going to watch this. He doesn't give a damn. I agree. That's my opinion.
I think, Nick, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I was, or maybe you weren't even at this event. I was at the first One Championship show they did, like right after signing Eddie and DJ. They brought Eddie and DJ out to Singapore. They weren't fighting, but they were there kind of to speak to the press and, meet the team and everything. And even back then, I would say there was a clear difference in their demeanor between Eddie and DJ. DJ seemed legitimately excited for a fresh start, new faces, new challenges. Eddie, maybe he was excited, but you just couldn't tell. It wasn't as obvious. He seemed a little bit more, he was kind of holding back in interviews. And again, maybe it was the jet lag or something. But yeah, I'm with you, Nick. He's never really seemed to rise to the occasion the same way DJ did. And I think in a way, this is kind of a pretty good outcome for one. When they signed these two guys, it could have gone any number of ways. They both could have lost terribly the way Eddie has. They both could have become champions the way DJ has. But that seems a little bit unlikely. In the end, what they get is one guy really becoming a big, valuable star for them in DJ, and the other one not working out. And I think that's, that's not bad. 1 out of 2 isn't bad.
Just to update on the Alvin Mod situation. So Alvin, I've typed your name in to this box, and there's a few Alvin Yakatoris on YouTube, and none of their avatars match the one you have here. So I don't know which one. I don't want to make. There's 6 actually, so I need to be sure which one is.
You don't want to pick the wrong one.
I feel like I'm in an episode of The Office for some reason. We're working, but we're not working.
Yeah. Well, anyway, back to the Eddie debate. John, do you want to weigh in with what Tom said? I don't know.
But Eddie, I've never interviewed Eddie. I don't remember. Like, my memory's bad, but I don't think I've ever interviewed Eddie. And I think there's a part of that why he wasn't, why it was hard for him to for media people to get interviews with him is because whenever he did interviews, they would just ask him about the UFC the whole time. They wouldn't even really ask him about
that too. They're always asking him about Dana and the UFC and were you mistreated and, why'd you leave? I mean, DJ got the same questions, and I would say he was, usually pretty good about answering them and at least pretended to be interested and pretended to care.
I just remember, guys, I did an interview once with Eddie and I prepared for it. I did I was really looking forward to it. I think it was before the Lapicus fight. And then I spent like an hour making preparations. Like, oh, this is going to be great. He does it in his car. The phone is so, the angle is like down low. He's like driving, not even paying attention, like barely listening to me. And he just cut it short because he couldn't be bothered to do it. And then I didn't even publish it because I felt he disrespected One Championship, me. I was like, cool, you're Eddie Alvarez, but I'm not that desperate to have an interview with you.
Nobody likes to get big timed, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't even publish it, and I never really told anyone. I just was like, whatever.
Well, cool. Eddie knows now.
Yeah.
He's watching.
But I'm sure this keeps him awake at night now. But
yes.
But then on the other flip side,
that was the straw that broke the camel's back right there. That's what happened, I think.
But no, I interviewed him in Manila before the flying fight, and he was a gentleman and lovely guy, and he couldn't be more happy to promote one. Just something happened between that flying fight and the Lapicus fight where I think something changed, and he got pissed off with One Championship, and then the DQ did not help, the red card, and yeah. Just, I wrote a column earlier today for SCMP, and I think my final comment was, it didn't work out, and both parties are happy to move on, and I think that's it.
I heard from unreliable sources that Chatri choked out Eddie in Evolve MMA in Singapore, and that's what was the.
I mean, who hasn't Chatri choked out?
Oh, that's true too.
Yeah, it's I don't know like how spiritual of a guy Eddie is, like, you know, how much stock he puts in, you know, destiny and fate and stuff like this. But you got to imagine when you come to a promotion looking for a fresh start and it's just like not working out. Obviously the first loss was legit, but then after that there was just everything was, there was the no contest, the really close loss to Okra Yoon. It would be hard not to feel like, okay, this clearly is just not the right combination for me. Clearly I'm just not meant to win in one championship. And you would get discouraged and you would get like a little bit dejected and maybe start thinking about taking your services elsewhere. It would just be really hard, I think, to not get discouraged in his situation when so many of the little hiccups he had were kind of out of his control, right? You know, the DQ obviously is the big one. So that may have had something to do with it too. Maybe he was just feeling like, for reasons I can't even understand, I'm just not meant to be in one, you know?
Maybe he felt mistreated, disrespected, you know. Who knows what's in his mind? Who knows what his team was thinking throughout the last year and a half? They probably were trying to get out the contract the whole time. And that's why he, you know, was quiet.
I'll tell you what.
Go ahead, Nick.
So, you know, I put that tweet out, breaking the news today. So there were a couple of likes on this tweet from Eddie Alvarez, and one of the posts that Eddie liked was just something saying Underground King, you know, like fist bump, and that's normal. The other one was reply to my tweet, and I'm just reading now verbatim, saying, "Wow, this is big news. I never really did get the vibe that he wanted to be in one," and Eddie Alvarez liked that. So he's saying he didn't want to be in one, but like he signed a contract with them. He made a big song and dance about it.
And you know, he came before DJ too. Like he was the first big star to sign with one championship when they really started picking up free agents and stuff. That was before Sage, before the Vitor thing, you know. He was the first one. And he didn't need to do that. You know, if there was any reluctance or any hesitance on his part, then don't sign the contract. Maybe at the beginning he was excited, but it certainly seemed, as we've said, and as liking that tweet suggests, Nick, that he was kind of just lost enthusiasm at some point.
Maybe hit the wrong button.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, we've all hit the wrong button at times.
Exactly.
You know?
For sure.
We've hit wrong buttons all the time.
But I think Eddie, he needs to feel loved, and he needs to feel. I think he felt. I remember when he got knocked out by Nastayukin or finished, and then he still went on that. They used to have a yearly retreat before the pandemic. You know, they go to Thailand somewhere or whatever, and he was saying he felt so respected and wanted by one because, you know, even though he lost his debut, Chatri still came up to him in the hotel, was like, "Please come to this retreat. I want you to feel part of the family." And he said, "I never had this feeling in the UFC of being a family." You remember he had those tweets about Joe Silva, which you might remember, where Joe Silva was sort of actively wanting him to lose and things like that. And it's weird. I don't know where things went wrong. He didn't feel loved. It's kind of sad to me. I think the ones who lose out are the fans, man. We have these questions like why, who, what, where, when. We're left wondering. And really, I think we should have done this Christian Lee title fight. Just done it. Send Eddie out on his shield. If he wins, he's a legend. If he loses, he puts over Christian Lee. Just do it. Give him a nudge of money for it as well.
Really, like the biggest disappointment about all this is that we didn't get any of the fights we wanted to see for Eddie, really. You know, we got him kind of fighting, I would say the Edward Flying fight, when that was announced, I was like, that's kind of a cool fight between, you know, two former champions from different organizations. But other than that, like that, obviously we all wanted to see the Shinya Aoki trilogy. Didn't get it. We all wanted to see him fight Christian Lee. Didn't get that. It just sort of seems like, it was almost a waste for everybody involved. Eddie didn't gain any, you know, his stock didn't improve over there. One wasn't able to put any young fighters over, which some people are suggesting, you know, was their intention in the comments. I think Eddie got very fair matchmaking, honestly. I mean, they didn't give Demetrius Johnson a title shot either, right? Right out of the gate. I think Timofey was a fair test for him. Not a champion, but like a top contender at the time.
Because they won't give Eddie or DJ a title shot at the gate, but they will give Shamil Abdullayev.
That's it, right? That's the first thing I thought about when that was announced. I was like, what the hell? But
this is the guy, Tom and John.
Who's Shamil?
Yeah, he's like he's
fighting DeRitter.
Yeah.
Okay,
next month.
So it's like a division. Event. It's not the it's not the prettiest division
of a
to be
Prime
honest.
Video card. He's never fought in one, and he's the main event of a Prime card, being fed to Rene de Ridder. Yeah, one championship. Sometimes, as much as I love them, they don't always uphold the same things for that. Just give Eddie Alvarez, Christian Lee as the main event of that show. I would pay way more money to watch that.
But then
as
on
much
the other
as I
hand,
love the Ridder, you know.
Don't you think people still would have said, you know, Eddie Alvarez hasn't won a fight since whenever, 2018, whenever he beat Edward? Like, I mean, people are going to be angry either way. I don't know that giving him a title shot was the solution. I think the fight with Martin was the thing to do. If he could get down to that weight class, give him one last shot to win a fight. You know, if he wins that fight, then he's suddenly a contender in that division. You know, Tankai needs new challengers. Who knows what could have happened there? It would have been cool to see him like try at featherweight maybe or something, but yeah. That's not the way it went, I guess.
It is not. It is not. So I figured we'd do an hour. So yeah, we talked about Eddie for a little bit. I did also want to just mention, Tom, some news you have put up or is about to go up that Superbon has a new opponent for one on Prime Video too. Chingiz Alazov's out of the fight for the featherweight kickboxing title.
Yeah, he's out. He's injured apparently. Got hurt in training. So Superbon's fighting Tayfun Özkan. I don't know how to say his name. I can't remember how they say it. I think that's it. The Dutch Turkish guy. He was supposed to fight Murat Grigorian on the undercard. Grigorian's now fighting Jamal Yusupov, who wasn't going to be on the card at all. So that fight is happening at featherweight under kickboxing rules. Yeah, so a little change up for that Prime Video card.
Yeah, that is pretty big. John, you were in Bangtown for a while. You were there. Superbon was giving a fight seminar. I think we both saw how good this dude is up close and personal. Does Tayfun Özcan have any chance in hell of claiming that belt?
Typhoon? Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea. I think Superbon is probably the best kickboxer in the world. And it's hard to bet against him, right? I'm not as educated on the kickboxing side of things, so I'm just gonna go with the guy that I met.
Yeah, I mean you're not wrong. You're not wrong though. I mean, what this is a fight between, like, you know, arguably the best kickboxer in the world right now, certainly one of the best kickboxers in the world right now, and a guy who's, you know, pretty good, but only has a week or two to prepare. I mean, let's call it like it is. It should be a cakewalk for Superbon.
It's a setup.
I mean, I wouldn't call it a setup, but they're making the best of a bad situation, right? They needed somebody to fight Superbon, and it's a credible fight, you know. Özcan's good. He's fought up, you know, I can't remember how many times and won, but fought and won a few times and won. But still, you know, he's not on Superbon's level under ordinary circumstances, I don't think. And, you know, even less so when he has a week and a half to prepare.
What happened to Chingiz?
He got injured. That's all it said.
And I think he's also in Phuket training.
Yeah, he's Tiger.
Yeah.
Is that Tiger, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what kind of injury he has.
You never know, but yeah, that sucks. I was looking forward to that, but you know, I fully expect Superbon to win. That is a shame, though. That is a shame. Here we go. Another question.
I assume they'll rebook that fight eventually, like when Alazov's
I think so.
Yeah,
because you have to do it because Chingiz won the Grand Prix. So
yeah, I don't think they're gonna make him do anything else between then.
But I'm a bit disappointed because I thought if Superbon beats Chingiz, you can do the Superbon Tankai mixed rules thing because mixed rules is all the rage right now. But anyway, as Chaz is asking, another mixed rules fight here. Why did one book Stamp and Mexen before their fights next week? Anything goes wrong, that matchup blows up in one's face. I think, Chaz, because Mexen is gonna steamroll Dankon Fa, I think, and I think Stamp probably won't get injured against Jihin, but you never know. What do you guys think? Am I being too optimistic? I'm predicting Stamp and Anissa to win those fights.
I think Anissa will definitely win, and if Stamp loses, I think Stamp will probably win. I'm not totally sure about that one, but if she loses, I don't really feel like it changes anything.
You're not going to get beat up.
I mean, and she's still, still going to be, she'll do okay in the Muay Thai rounds, presumably with Mexin, and then she's still going to have a huge advantage in MMA, whether she loses to Jihin or not. It might strip a little bit of the luster away from that fight, but I don't think it really changes anything if Stamp loses. If Anissa loses, which, let's be honest, is, about as unlikely as the sun not setting tomorrow, then that would change things, I think. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It has been interesting, like how they handled Mexin, though. It's just there must be something going on behind the scenes, right?
There is something going on, defo, but I think they can't deny her. If she beats Stamp, they have to give her Jackie in one of those two things, like Muay Thai or kickboxing. They have to. There is no way. Sorry, not Jackie. Yeah, Janet Todd. Yeah. Forgive me. They have to give her. It has to happen because it looks bad if you don't do this. Like Janet says, "I want the fight." Mexin has obviously been calling for the fight, but I think the only way you can justify it was, we wanted to give Janet the chance to win the 2 belts first. Fine, now they have it. You have to do it. And I think this is a way to pacify Anissa by giving her a big name. Mm-hmm. And if she goes and beats Stamp in Stamp's backyard, it's a big win for her, isn't it? No matter what. And the special rules thing can give you a big buzz as well. We saw with DJ and Rodtang. I think it's a great fight.
Is that fight in Bangkok?
Yeah, January 14th. One Championship's first foray back into Thailand since, I want to say,
what is it? January what?
2020, yeah. Or no, they came to July, didn't they? They did the MT Arena shows, yeah, a couple years ago.
So this show, that the mixed rules show, is January 18th?
14th.
Yeah. 14th?
Oh, I will be there. Maybe
I might go to that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we all should go there.
Yeah, Thailand's good.
Thailand is good.
Thailand is good.
John's left Thailand finally. What happened?
But I'll be back.
So you didn't do the fight. You got injured? Give us the update.
I just had injuries, man. Just injuries and, just being a little girl sometimes. It's just... And then now I'm back here. I'm getting these injections in my shoulder because my shoulder was the one that was mainly causing all the problems. So I'm getting these injections in my shoulder. So they said a few weeks of injections in, your shoulder. I guess I got major tendonitis on my shoulder. So I don't have to get surgery, but injections and shockwave therapy. And I should be good. So continue training. And I'm trying to fight in February.
Mm-hmm. Are you going back to Thailand or what? Because you're training now with Korean Top Team, I believe I saw on your social media.
Yeah, there's a few places I'll just go around and train at. But I'll go back to Thailand and work with the coaches at Bang Tao for about 6 weeks ahead of the fight. And then
also looking very svelte, JHK.
Yeah,
as always.
Lots of weight being lost, and I gotta keep it off.
I saw you when I was there. I'm going to tell Tom, John was in these 9 a.m. classes. I just could not get my ass out of bed for those. I was always 5 p.m. John was doing the 9 a.m. fitness. He was doing the jiu-jitsu. You were doing the striking sessions. You were doing everything. You're a crazy MFer.
Yeah, but it was just the energy that you have to have. I just couldn't keep up. You know what I mean? Even right now, my cardio is not too good, but we'll see what happens. Maybe I might not even need cardio. I'll just do a crane kick, like Karate Kid.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's all you gotta do.
All right, back to the chat. Where's the Zhong Jingnan interview? Vegan Crane asking. All right, Zhong. All right, Vegan. I will be on location in Singapore from Monday next week. So less than a week. I will be there. I've already lined up Zhong Jingnan, Angela Lee, Stamp Fairtext. We're gonna have Bon himself, Super Bon, We're going to have Anissa. We're going to have all the stars. Don't you worry. Check SCMP Martial Arts. It's all there. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. The info's down there. I don't know where my camera is now. It's all there. Vegan Crane, don't worry. We'll have the panda.
Are you doing one of those like face-off interviews?
You
should. If it's like if it's live, like you could get them both in the same room. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Be cool.
I'm happy to be back around because we went to Singapore in March, Tom and I, but it was so lame because we had to wear masks. We weren't allowed to like be near them. Now Singapore doesn't give a damn, so I can go up to fighters. I can speak to them. We can interview whoever we want. So I'm really happy with that. I'm gonna grab. I mean, presumably there are going to be other people there. Like maybe Onglar's going to be there cornering Martin. I don't know. I would love to see Onglar again. That's been
we were fighting against a litany of issues last time that just made it very difficult to talk to these fighters beforehand. It was pretty
awful.
Brutal. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. But some questions in the chat here. We do like 15 minutes or something here. So any questions? We've talked about Eddie, but if you want to ask about Eddie, we'll try and answer again. But anyway, Leonardo, why did they sign the best female kickboxer? I think this is Anissa. If they didn't want her as champion since fight 1, it is weird, isn't it? Who's more up on Anissa and kickboxing out of you guys?
I mean, I know what everyone else knows. She's, one of the best in the world, and for reasons none of us can quite comprehend, one doesn't seem to want her to fight for a title. I've said, since I last interviewed Smilla Sundell, and she said she'd be down to defend her title against Anissa, that they should just make that fight. I know Smilla's way bigger than Anissa, but Anissa's, I would say, way better than Smilla, so they kind of balance out there. And Smilla has nobody else to fight. There's like literally no one in that weight class for her to defend her title against. So I think that's a good way to keep them both busy. And then if Anissa wins that, then she's could potentially fight for a second title, being a 2-division champion. But they got to do something for her. The stamp fight, like you said, Nick, is kind of a good way to pacify her. I like that word. She gets a big name. She gets kind of an interesting challenge. But I mean,
I don't want to see Stamp take another big L.
Yeah, and I don't want to see Anissa take. What does seeing Anissa get submitted in the second round really do for anybody? It's
a lot of risks.
Yeah, it's I mean, it doesn't hurt her standing in kickboxing, but it also doesn't help her at all, right? So it's just, which is probably what's going to happen if we're being honest. So it's kind of it's an interesting fight, and we're all going to tune in for it, right? You can't miss the special rules fights, but it's silly, man. Anissa needs to be fighting for a title in some weight class.
All right, John. Chaz, I want to ask you this question. Chaz is asking, is it a self-own from Chatri when he criticizes Zhong Jingnan being unimpressive because she trains at Evolve?
It's what is that? What's the question? That's self-owned by Chatri and Angelique Pose. I don't know. I don't think it really matters if they train at Evolve anymore. I don't think Chatri cares about that. Maybe in the beginning he did because he had a connection to the gym. You know what I mean? Like he built the gyms, from the ground up. But now it's just like he's more one championship rather than Evolve, right? Of course, he probably does run Evolve and everything, but he has people doing all that stuff. Chatri, he's more of like one championship. He wants to grow the promotion. And going back to Anissa, I just think that there's something going on behind the scenes. Like there's some kind of negotiations, or like maybe she signed her contract and now she's thinking like I should earn more money, but she's stuck in the contract, right? So they're not giving her the fights, like the title fights, because or if she does fight for the title, they're gonna give her a new contract that she doesn't want. Maybe. I'm just saying there's got to be something going on there with that. You know what I mean? And maybe this was one of the options that they gave her, like fight Stamp and then mixed rules fight. And then if you win this one, we're gonna give you the big money and you're gonna fight for titles. That could be something that's going on. I'm just speculating, but it is very odd that she hasn't fought for the title yet, and she's been signed for a long time.
Honestly, it reminds me a little bit of when Cyborg came to the UFC. Like everyone knew how good she was. Obviously it's a different situation because Cyborg was, competing in a division the UFC didn't really have, at featherweight at the time and stuff. But it's just one of those situations where you have this fighter who everybody knows is one of the best in the world, but they just aren't getting the opportunity that everyone wants to see them in. And there's obviously, you know, a lot of reasons for these situations, but it's disappointing when this happens. And I just wish that, yeah, it'd be sick to see her fight Janet Todd. I would love to see that fight.
All right, how about this? Who's Ongla going to fight? Because Ongla just put on Instagram, I think it was, he's signed a contract. So I think he's going to slot in for that November card. And he was hinting before it might be in Tokyo, which would be fantastic. But let's just think about the opponent. Realistically, who will Ongla and Sang fight next?
I mean, John, you want to go first? I mean, I have some theories.
It's hard to say who Ongla is going to fight next, right? But if he's going to fight in Japan, there's two options, you know, right? You know, there's two options, Tom. I see Tom's eyes. I know he knows
the two options in Japan. About. Obviously, Yushin is Sexyama, the other one.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Those are the two options: Sexyama or Yushin Okami. Because he's been talking about Yushin Okami, right? But and Sexyama is the fight, though.
But Sexyama, I think, would be a better fight. I feel like, you know, Yushin's just another big grappler who would potentially give Ongla, you know, a tough time. We want to see Ongla, you know, stand and bang with people right now. And that's what he wants too, I think. He's sort of suggested that. He wants fun fights for the moment. And Sexyama, I mean, it's always entertaining, right? Look at his fight with Shinya. I mean, he was losing that fight brutally in the first round and then turned it around. So that'd be a great fight. And
he pretty much didn't believe he won that fight too. If you notice how he reacted to winning the fight, you know, like it's almost.
And I think that fight was sort of the last time he's going to weigh that little. Like, I don't think he's ever going back down to that weight class. So for him to go back up and meet Ongla at a heavier division, I think makes a lot of sense. But I can also see them giving Ongla like Roberto Soldich or something crazy, you know, on a Prime Video card. Depends though what weight class Roberto's in, right? Like, well, they need to give him somebody. You know, they're not giving him a title shot clearly, so. Like, I don't know.
Is he fighting at welterweight or lightweight?
I hope he fights at welterweight or lightweight, but he said he wants to fight at middleweight too. So, I mean, crazier things have happened.
Well, it seems like they really love that guy, Soldek. So
yeah,
and I think they're gonna just give him opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be those are two big names though if they were to do something like that. But I think probably Yushin is most likely if it happens in Tokyo. I don't think that the Japan card is gonna happen now. I've sort of heard from a few people that maybe
Tom.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it will. I did see that Japan just pretty much opened their border back to like pre-pandemic levels, I think. So you can pretty much just breeze into Japan again for the first time since the pandemic started. But I have heard kind of from a few fighters that maybe that's not happening. So if it is, I feel like it's a no-brainer that he has to fight Yushin or Sexyama on that card.
Okay, Leonardo, I don't know what you mean about these pay-per-views. Sorry. I still think that the numbered cards, you have to pay. And then Prime Video cards, you get the lead card for free on YouTube, and then you have to pay. So depending on where you are. But basically, you want to go to watch.onefc.com. Just pay for it. If you know, that's the easiest way. It's not that much money.
If you're in North America, there's a thing, there's 3-letter thing. There's a 3-letter thing. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. There's a 3-letter thing, right?
PFL.
Yeah. UFC.
Okay.
You know, you use that on your computer.
This for John. Can we get an update on him? So he injured, retired, just unloved by one, asks Chuck at WMMA scene now.
I haven't really heard anything. I don't think, is she injured? I don't think she's injured. I think she's just chilling. Maybe this is very weird that she hasn't been booked a fight. I'm very, you know, I want to see the Denise fight. Is that the rematch, right? I want to see that. Like
that's the fight they did.
Yeah.
Did they have a rematch? What did I miss?
Well, Ham
win that fight?
Yeah, she won.
She won it a little bit more dominant, right?
Mm-hmm. She was number one contender for Angela, and then they were just like, actually, we'll do Angela and the Panda again. So she's in limbo, and it's like, do you wait to fight Angela next year, or do you just fight someone now and then risk losing your title shot? So tough spot for her.
But the thing is, Ham is probably one of those fighters that is getting that monthly stipend. So it's like, why do you need the fight?
Maybe she's just, I mean, it's, you know, a lot of people would assume, I think, that it's an injury or a contract issue or something, but maybe she heard before the rest of us that Angela was going to go back up to strawweight, and instead of, you know, risking her spot, she's just hanging tight until that fight's over, and she'll get next shot, sometime in the first couple of months of the year.
Why not?
That's the hope.
Make that money. All right.
Getting any younger though. I'm just telling you that.
Yeah, we got about 5 minutes, so get any questions in that you want before we get out of here. Ego Kind, thanks for all the comments. Sorry, I'm not sure if I've put you on screen yet, but I appreciate the interaction. Any news on Hiroki Akimoto? I know Tom is in love with this guy. When I came back out from the curtain, he was almost weeping, saying, "I think that was the best
weeping
kickboxing fight I've ever seen in my life." Yeah,
he's the best, man. And I can say that I've heard that he will fight again in the fall. So
okay,
that's the best I can do. But I think you will see him in the next month or two.
Nice.
Okay. Any news about Sage? Northcut asks Bobby Brown. Well, Bobby, yeah, I heard Sage had sort of been lined up, but it's
what happened with that?
Yeah.
I sort of forgot about that. I heard that too, and then it just sort of
Sage was meant to be on this card next week, and it's just not. He's no longer on it, so I'm not surprised. I didn't bank on it. Yeah.
Man, that's an odd one too, right? Sage and him, being ready to fight. You've probably done a bunch of interviews, and he's just never fought. Like I've spoken to him a few times since his last fight, and he was ready to fight, but just never got a matchup. Remember he went back and forth with Aoki for a little bit. And he's like, Mr. Aoki.
Shinya would have absolutely styled on him.
I think they were actually kind of looking at that fight seriously too. I don't know if it was ever.
I didn't want to see it. I
didn't. You know what I want to see? If we're talking about Sage, I want to see him fight Sexyama. Whatever weight class makes sense for both of them. Yeah. Clearly, they can both get fun. And then they're both they're the sexy guys. Yeah. Just have them fight for the sexy weight championship.
Sage is the young Sexyama.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's and they're both. Weight. I would say
Sageyama.
That's fair matchmaking. Sage is younger and more athletic certainly, but I would say skill for skill, he's not on Sexyama's level. I feel like the youth and the skill kind of counterbalance there, and that's not an outrageous fight. I think it's one people would watch. Throw it on Prime Video. The pre-fight promos would be amazing. Sexyama offering some of his like Sage wisdom, and Sage Northcut just sounding like he's drank 40 Red Bulls. It's I think that'd be a great fight.
Sage is like this. He's so talented, right? Like, and so skilled in striking and so athletic. I think he's probably the most athletic fighter we've seen in one championship. The dude can do a backflip just standing still, and we saw him do it in the cage, right?
You can't do
that. I can. I saw it, John. I saw it like a handstand on Facebook or something.
That's illusion right there. But but the thing is, like, maybe to me, I like Sage. Sage is like a very nice guy. But the thing is, imagine if Sage had the mentality of like a Hamzat, but with the skills of Sage, him being him, but the mentality of like a Hamzat. I think he would have been a totally different animal, right? It almost seems like Sage, we're never going to see him fight again. Like,
yeah,
I'm kind of like getting comfortable with that, saying that, right? Like, it's like, we're not going to see him again. And then next week, they're going to announce a fight, Sage versus Sexyama. Watch.
I hope it happens, but I kind of don't think we'll see him fight again either. And to be honest, I don't know that I've ever fully bought the Sage hype. Like, he was definitely like so athletic and fast and just, had the right physical attributes for fighting, but I don't know that his striking was even that good. It was flashy. His grappling obviously needed some improvements when he left the UFC. But I don't know. To me, Sage is still kind of a big question mark. I still feel like we haven't really seen enough from him to know where his ceiling is. And so it'd be really unfortunate if he never fights again.
All right. Quickly wrap up here. Couple questions, comments. Gordon Ryan signed a 1. We don't know anything about Gordon Ryan, like in 1. Yeah.
Was that even real?
I don't know. I've heard that 1 would just sort of hyping things. They want to have him against Shinya Aoki, which, although Shinya did not submit to is it Ty Rotolo he fought, and Ty just tapped out everyone in ADCC on his way to the title, the youngest ever champion.
Insane.
So Shinya's got skills, of course, but the discrepancy in weight and height, yeah, it's ridiculous. But anyway,
and Shinya's an old man as well, you know, and Ty's like
Gordon Ryan's like the best in the world and a giant.
Is Gordon Ryan on all the steroids, or am I just like having an illusion?
I mean, he looks like a Goron king from Zelda Ocarina of Time, man. Now with that like gray beard and the gray hair, you know.
Yeah.
Remember,
I understand that
Goron's
he's skilled.
Zelda 64.
I understand that he's skilled, but is that something that is like the elephant in the room, but nobody wants to talk about?
I mean, do we want to open up that?
Yeah, I'm
just saying. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Like, does jiu-jitsu tournaments like ADCC test fighters?
I think it probably depends on the tournament.
I'm not even going to call them fighters, grapplers.
Yeah. I think Gordon Ryan, Nick, as we sort of speculated at the height of the pandemic, when it was harder to put on fights, one was perhaps, you know, signing people just to kind of keep their names in the headlines, you know, keep the, you know, optics of good business alive. Maybe that's a kind of a tinfoil hat theory, but there's just a few too many of these things to ignore. You know, there was David Branch, there was David Branch, there was Gordon Ryan, Andre Galvao. It didn't seem like he was going to fight for a long time. Obviously, he did in the end. But who else? Vitor Belfort obviously never ended up fighting. There was just a couple in there that were like, did they ever plan on having these people fight, or was this just a way to make an announcement when they didn't have anything else to announce?
Definitely, David Branch was meant to fight, and something happened, which I can't say.
Yeah.
So I think I've told you what happened, but I cannot say it publicly. But do you guys think Prime Video 2 will generate the same buzz as Prime Video 1? I think it will generate more, actually. I think Angela Lee is a bigger star for one championship than Demetrius Johnson. As weird as that sounds, just by the metrics I got from 1X, the Angela Lee interview post-fight had about like 150,000 views. It was insane. DJ had like 80, 90,000 views. Really good. But I think Angela Lee, don't underestimate her star power. And especially if she wins, becomes 2-belt champ, and it's got the baby there. You know, where's she going to keep the baby with 2 belts? It's going to be fun to watch. We'll see, but don't count out the panda. Yeah. All right. I think we're hitting the hour. So up to these boys. Don't know if you want to sign off, but it's just hit midnight for me, so maybe we'll leave it there. Alvin's messaged me. I'm gonna make him a moderator after the show. I was just trying to figure it out, but I cannot figure it out. So I will do, Alvin. Don't worry.
Are we doing fight companions again? I think someone was saying that in the chat.
Yeah, John, maybe you and I could do it because Nick's going to be on the ground or something.
Yeah. I'm going to be in Singapore, so I will talk to you boys offline. But definitely would love to do it, but we'll figure that out. Yeah, it's a big time commitment and stuff. But I'll be there. So tomorrow I'm going to have Chatri interview, but it's quite late. Yeah, about midnight or 10 p.m.
10, yeah.
What?
Yeah, maybe we'll get that out tomorrow. If I'm tired, it'll be Friday. So I'm going to ask Chatri about Eddie. I'm going to ask him about drug testing. I'm going to ask him about DJ and Henry
Anissa.
Ask him about Anissa. I'm asking all these things. Don't you worry, everyone.
Ask him about the UFC signing Hasbulla. Ask him about that. That's a good question.
Okay. And did
like, where's the other Hasbulla? The Asian Hasbulla, where is he? We need to sign him.
Okay.
I'm just
give me all the questions you want me to ask Chatri. Put it in the chat here or leave a comment on the video after it finishes, and don't forget to like and subscribe, please. But I think it's hit midnight for me. I think it's about 11 for John, and Tom is midday, so Tom's got to do his thing. He's got to do his stretches. His back's feeling a little bad. I've heard through the grapevine. How is it, Tom?
Slowly
Just
recovering.
An old man now.
I've realized that it's not like I was hoping it would just be one of these little tweaks that's gone after a day or two, but it's been about like 3 weeks now. So I'm sort of just accepting it as part of my life now. But hey, what can you do?
Okay.
Getting old.
I would go see a physio, man. I think
that's true. I guess I could go see someone about it rather than just complaining.
Physio's the best, man. I think they're the best to go to.
Yeah.
For those
Ask him about The Apprentice. That's what the fans want. All right, Wrestle Jamia has got it. I'm gonna get the info on season 2 of The Apprentice, guys. I think that's the thing.
But does that actually happen?
I think it is. Yeah, in Abu Dhabi or no Qatar. Sorry. Yeah, you know, one's got that Qatar money now, so got to do that. Season 2 in
Qatar money.
Yeah, is it Qatar?
I don't know.
I
think so.
Yeah.
They're going to Qatar, or they got Qatar investors.
They got Qatar investors doing season 2 of The Apprentice in
shadowy Qatar money.
Yeah.
So they're doing the Apprentice in Qatar.
That's
what they're doing. Wow.
Yeah, but I think they're going to have events there because Chatri said they're going to build a studio, and I actually like this idea of having a kind of fight. What's it called? Apex. Yeah, UFC style Apex, doing small scale shows in a studio
in Qatar.
Yeah, I think that's great.
We've always said they should have done that in Singapore long ago.
Yeah,
or even just like shoot some events inside Evolve or something. Put a cage in there. Like there must have been a way to do it
instead of empty arena shows with no fans with a massive 12,000 seat arena. Do it in a small studio. I think great idea. And you don't have to have title fights. You can do fight night kind of things. So,
they could do it in Thailand, man. I think Thailand's open enough to where people can get in and out real easy.
Well, they got this like Lumpini thing now. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I went to Lumpini, man. It's like a perfect place, perfect setup. It's not too big, and you could get fights on quick. They got good production, everything's set up already. I think that's what lured Chatri there, anyways. You know what I mean? Because it's already set up for him to do shows. But doing a studio in Qatar, man, that's a long way to fly for everybody. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah, it's not that far though for all these kickboxers from the Netherlands and Germany and the UK. Guys like Liam Harrison, Jonathan Haggerty. A lot of these guys would be actually a much easier flight, I think. Or people even flying from North America. That's a 10-hour flight rather than 18 or 20 hours.
Well, I'm gonna ask him about it. Don't you worry. And leave a comment on the video. Any questions you want me to ask Chatri? Other than that, I'm just going to ask my fabulous guests what they have going on. JHK MMA from the All Star Sports. Anything big coming up? Where can people find you? What's going on?
Well, you can find me at JHK MMA, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, just go to whatever social media that you use and find me on JHK MMA, and you'll find out all that stuff. And of course, most of my work will be with the All Star. So, just continuing what I do. That's it. That's all it is.
And Mr. Tom Taylor.
Yeah.
Big day ahead for you. I don't know.
Well, hopefully. I mean, I'm still waiting to hear when I'm interviewing Rainier de Ritter. It's supposed to be this week. Just waiting on a time. So that's will probably be the next interview for me unless somebody else jumps out of the woodwork, which happens sometimes. And I think I was going to interview Angela Lee, but it sounds like Nick, you'll just do that on the ground, right? So
yeah, I figure
yeah. So Nick will handle that, I guess. But more interviews coming. More interviews coming. Whatever breaking news pops up, we'll have that covered. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there it is. Another successful edition of the show in the books, whatever you want to call it. Appreciate all the comments and everything. Please do like and subscribe. Ask Chatri about One versus UFC champs. Come on. He always.
How many times are we going to talk about that?
Yeah. But Shimazu, I'll do it again if you want.
No, you should ask him about One versus LFA champs. That's what
PFL.
One versus PFL. Chatri v. Lauren in the main event.
One versus Cage Warriors champs. Let's go. I don't even know who those. I don't even know who those champions are.
One versus One Pride from Indonesia, right?
Exactly. That was a big. Yeah, that's killer right there.
We'll do it all. We'll do it all. Anyways, that's it. All right. Much love to everyone, and see you all again.
Good luck to Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah.
Best of luck to the Underground King.
What a crazy 4 years it was, or whatever, for Eddie Alvarez. One win, 2 losses, 1 no contest. and a bunch of waiting and delays. But yeah, it was still cool to see him beat Flying in Manila. I love Edward Flying as well, but that was a fun fight. Were you there, Tom?
I wasn't, but Edward's one of my guys. He's on the list, so that one stung a bit for me.
It stung, but it was still cool to see Eddie do that.
Yeah. It was nice to see Eddie win in the Philippines. That was something he probably never expected to happen when he started his career. So cool moment.
Did not. Well, that's it. Good luck to Eddie Alvarez.
Yes, we roasted him in the beginning of the show a little
but
bit.
It's all love.
We have respect for Eddie Alvarez, man. He has trailed or blazed a trail for himself.
He's trailed a blaze.
He's a legend.
Exactly. Blazed a big fatty for everybody. You know what I mean? Just do it, Eddie. That's what you need to do. Retire. I'm not gonna say retire, but ride off in the sunset. Because I think Eddie's pretty well off, man. He's a smart dude. Like if you listen to his interviews, like he puts money, he invests money and all that.
He's a crypto guy, yeah.
He's a crypto guy, man. Like next you know, Marcia Inu is gonna be all up in the mix.
That's it. It's all love to Eddie. If we sounded like we didn't like him, it's not true. I think the overriding feeling is disappointment, especially from me. I don't want to speak to the other guys. I was just disappointed we didn't see the true Eddie, maybe, or I wrote in this article I did the column that it was either rotten luck or some sort of loss of Eddie's abilities, or maybe a mix of both. But it's a shame it didn't happen. But we look forward to seeing what Eddie does next. But anyway, we move on with everything, and we move on to one on Prime Video 2, 161 next week. Yeah, we'll hopefully have a fight companion and stuff. So we'll update you all. But it's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you again next time. All right.
Yes, maybe Chris Edwards-Bailey will be back.
I don't know. Chris, reach out. The great Leon. All these people reach out to me, please.
Yes.